One of the big space-related stories that we read about in India over the last year was Sunita Williams being stuck in space for 9 months. What was your take on that as an astronaut? Because there's very few people who understand what it's actually like being up in space. My question is, what do you think it's like being up there for 9 months?
We call her Sunny Williams, Sunita. They thought they were prepared to stay, but you kind of think that's not likely. It's not likely that you can. Those are the rare occasions, but they do happen. But when they happen to you, that you're in that situation and you understand why. I think it really was. I think a tribute to her. She has got such a personality, and so I think she made the best of it. She saw it as an opportunity. She was happy to stay there, and make that adjustment. But I think we should also admire her for what she accomplished. That she did such a great job and did a bunch of spacewalks and didn't really complain at all. And it's not. Some people say, well, she's in space. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it is, but it's really a job that you're doing. So it's not fun and games. It's an adjustment for the family and people at home. And you certainly, people could certainly get grumpy about doing that, but she wasn't. She didn't do that at all. When I was in your country, I met the prime minister when I was there, and he was very kind, and he was asking about Sunny, and I think he knew her father at some point, and because her parents are from India, and he gave me a very wonderful letter to send up to her in space, and she really appreciated it. So she has that connection with India.
Do you enjoy the food you get up in space, or do you get bored of
Yeah,
it?
it's pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, I liked
Do,
it. I enjoyed it. Yeah,
does it get
it's pretty good.
repetitive? Because I'm assuming it's like the same dish that you got to reheat every time.
No, would you want to do that? Would you want to eat the same thing every day? Astronauts are people. Man, we're not going to eat that. We're not going to eat, so no, we had a wide variety of things. We had some vegetarian dishes, some meat dishes, some Italian, all kinds of Indian. You get just about everything up there. And it's prepared by our cooks at NASA and packaged. It's just packaged differently than what you would get on the ground. So they're packaged some of them are packaged in these, what they call thermostabilized packets, which are kind of like camp food, meals ready to eat from the military. And you warm those up and eat them. Some are dehydrated where you just add water to them. So no, the food's pretty good. In fact, I did an endorsement for a chicken company. CP Foods in Thailand was sending their Thai basil chicken to space. That's some pretty
Oh,
good
wow.
food. So they had that to eat on that mission. I don't know if they've ate. I've got to ask Peggy if she tried it. But no, the food's really good. No one wants to go away. It's important to keep yourself healthy, but also for morale. So now the food's great. At least I
I
thought. I
mean,
gained weight. I'm only one of two astronauts, and I know that gained
how
weight.
come most people lose weight?
Well, they might lose or they might stabilize. You just don't have as much appetite. You're floating around. You might have a little more stomach awareness. And you're busy. You're working the whole time. You're working a lot. And so I think generally people don't typically gain weight in space.
Hmm.
But I like the food
Gotcha.
so much I did.
Do you feel like really tired after the space walks? Because I assume it takes a lot of physical effort.
Yeah, you're pretty drained. It's a lot of physical effort, but it's also a lot of mental effort too. I mean, you're kind of like locked in thinking about what you're doing and what's coming next, and so it's physically but also mentally pretty draining.
Why do you have to exit the ship in the first place? I assume it's for repairs, maintenance, possibly some kind of experimentation.
Yeah, it was typically to work. It's to work on things. So, like on my flights, we were working on the Hubble Space Telescope, and you can't, that thing is in space. It really wasn't practical to try to bring it back down and launch it again. So you just leave it there, and then the only way to work on it is go outside and work on it. And that's the way it was built. It was built so we could maintain it that way. That's really your only option. You can't bring it inside to work on it. That's really so you go outside to work on it. And on the space station, you only have so much room. The room inside is really meant for people, right? And what they need to work on. So it's for the experiments and the living life support stuff, all that. So it's you can't have everything inside, right? And you have some things you have to have out. Your radiators and your cooling system and a lot of your other equipment is outside. So it's kind of like in your house or in your apartment or wherever you live, there's stuff inside and there's stuff outside. And sometimes you want to do something, you got to go outside to take care of the stuff outside. And that's kind of the way it is on the space station. A lot of the equipment outside of the living area, and so you got to go outside to work on it every once. And sometimes it's to retrieve experiments like that, but most of the time it's and nowadays it's maintenance tests. Space station working properly.
While you're outside of the spaceship, I understand that it's probably a lot of focus that you've got to focus on. Like you've got to stay in a high focus zone, I'm sure. But do you also just like kind of turn your head to the side and look out into deep space Do you ever get lost in that kind of a moment?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, you see the beautiful Earth here, and then you look out and you look in the other direction, and it's kind of cool. You see stars and stuff like that. Every once in a while you might see a satellite go by. It's kind of cool. But that was the other thing that hit me is that you look out, you look at this beautiful planet, and you look in the other direction, and it's cool and everything, but there's nothing out there yet we know of yet that we could live on. We've checked out the neighborhood. We've got nowhere to go right now. We've got to make our planet work. But yeah, you look in the other direction. The stars in space are wonderful, and you focus on your job, but when you have time every once in a while. I didn't really look around I did 4 spacewalks, and the very first one I didn't really look around so much. But after I got more comfortable in my sequent spacewalks, I took more time just to enjoy the environment as best I could, make some observations, and think about how I was feeling about it.